It's that post-lunch kind of lull. All right, so here's what we're going to be going over today. First and foremost, I'm going to show you a technique inside of InDesign that allows us to create a multi-panel horizontal layout, which is a mouthful to say. Basically what we want to do is we want to learn how we can take pages, more than two, to create a fold-out spread. So, a good example of where this may be useful, if I think I've mentioned National Geographic magazine in here before. Typically in those kind of magazines or presentations, you would generally have a fold-out section that is made of what looks like, many pages that are kind of folded in on themselves. And what it really is just, it's a one giant long piece of paper, one giant piece of stock that has been folded multiple times to tuck inside of the magazine. These sort of fold-outs are, from a layout perspective, you may look at it and go, well, I'm just going to go ahead and create a document in, say, Illustrator or InDesign that is however big that stock paper is going to be before it's folded, and that's what I'm going to do my layout on. Well, that's one way to look at it. However, a lot of times when these particular panels get changed in their overall dimensions because of editorial changes or publishing changes or just the cost of producing that particular periodical has gone up and they want to reduce costs. Anytime there's an adjustment like that, trying to take an entire design and resize it can be problematic. Instead, the better way to approach these kind of layouts is a multi-panel horizontal design. Now, InDesign allows us to create spreads, which is great because we can put two pages together that are separated by a spine. However, if we need to have more than 2 pages in a horizontal spread, we run into a bit of a problem with InDesign. So, just so that we are all on the same page and we see exactly what the problem here is, let's go ahead and create a brand new document in InDesign, make it a letter size page just for today's demonstration, and make sure 2 things are set. Number 1, facing pages is checked, and number 2, the number of pages we'll use for today's demonstration is 5. So I'm going to create a letter size page. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And just make sure you have 5 pages here. All right? So you should have a layout that looks something like this. Now, when we set this document up, because this is facing pages, you can see the spine is represented by that vertical line. Everybody see that? All right, now, what if we wanted to create a spread and where I actually had 5 panels laid out horizontally? Right now, that layout are 5 pages consisting of 2 spreads and a single page. That's what I've got. I need to have a layout where I've got 5 pages that are horizontally connected. Now normally you could do this by moving pages around. However, check this out. If I go to actually move, let's say I want to take page 1 and put it right next to page 3 to create a 3-page layout. Watch what happens when I go to drag this. Do you see what's happening here? Nothing. Actually, something is happening. What I'm doing is I'm taking the content on this page and I'm now moving it down here. That now becomes page 3. Page 3 becomes page 2. Page 2 becomes page 1. But the problem is that InDesign won't let you create a horizontal layout more than 2 pages across by default. Does everyone see the problem here? Try it yourself. Try dragging the pages. Go ahead. I'll wait while everyone gets a laugh at the futility of trying this. All right, does everybody now recognize the problem? So we need to fix this. What we need to do is we need to tell InDesign, stop managing my layout, right? Stop managing how my pages are stacked. I want to do it on my own. So what's actually happening here InDesign has a feature called Shuffle. By default, Shuffle is turned on. So anytime we actually move those pages, it shuffles the order of the pages around based on where we drop it. So if I were to drop page 1 down here, it would shuffle everything. Page 1 would now become page 5, 5 would become 4, 4 would become 3, 3 would become 2, 2 would become 1. Does everybody see this? So we need to turn that feature off in order to allow us to actually lay out pages in the way that we want, not necessarily the way InDesign thinks it needs to be. So it's a very easy way of doing this. Here's what we're going to do. I want to select all of these pages and turn off the shuffle option. To do this, first single click on page 1 just to highlight it, make sure the thumbnail is currently selected. Hold down the shift key and click on the last page, page 5. Okay. We now have all of these pages selected. Everyone there? Okay. Next step, move your mouse over it, hold the control key down or right click on them. Either control click or right click if you've got right click enabled. I don't know if you do or not. And if we come down here, you'll notice that there are 2 options that are currently checked. Don't click on them yet. Allow document pages to shuffle and allow spreads to shuffle. Everyone here? Now, for our purposes, what's happening because we have facing pages is that InDesign is shuffling our spreads. So in order for us to make this work, we need to remove this option. So the second one that says allow selected spreads to shuffle, click that to turn that off. And what you'll see now is your page numbers should be bracketed. So if I click on that and I come up to see my pages, see how I've got each page number is set into square brackets. Okay? That's telling me now that InDesign's not really managing the shuffling of these pages. Okay, now go ahead and click somewhere off the page area to deselect these. Now here's what I want you to do. Grab page 1, and now when you move it over here, look how there is a bracket that shows up when you get the page close to one of the other pages. And if I let go, I now have a 3-page layout. I'll move page 4 up, and I'll move page 5 up. Now, look at this, I have a 5-page horizontal spread. Does everybody see that? Of course, I can add as many pages to this layout as I want, but typically this is how you would play this out. And when you go to actually design whatever it is that requires a very long horizontal layout, and remember, think about these as panels, not necessarily pages at this point. You would go in and you would lay out each one of those individual panels, or you would create a graphic that could span multiple panels. But one of the most commonly used designs for this layout is actually for dust jackets. So here I have a book up here at the front. Everybody see this? What is a dust jacket? I'm holding up this book. It's what?
The outer cover.
Yeah. So this is a hard-bound book, and it's got this protective printout. Beautiful orange, by the way. It's got this protective printout. Okay? Does everyone see that? Everyone see that in the camera? Okay. Now, how many panels makes up a dust jacket? 6? Let's count them.
Oh, 12.
12.
I know where you only do the front. Okay, you're gonna do 6.
Yeah. How many panels? How many? What are we saying? Are we saying 6? Anyone else got another number? 7.
I think that's a B right there. I'm trying to see. I can't
Let's
see
try
the
this.
hole. There we
Let's
go.
go here.
Yeah. Yeah,
fold
okay.
it up like this.
There we
Okay?
go.
Can we agree that's a panel?
Yeah.
All right, so that's one. What is that? The front cover. Everyone agree on that? Okay. This is a panel. What is this? Back cover. So that's two. If I open up on inside, what do I have on the insides?
Flaps.
Flaps. How many additional panels does that make?
Two more.
Two more. So now we have 2 plus 2 is 4. So now we have 4 panels.
And the one in the front, yeah, that's another 5.
How about this one?
Yeah.
What's this? What's that covering? The
Spine.
book's spine. That's a 5th panel. So, check this out. A dust jacket consists of 5 panels. The 2 flaps, the 2 covers, and the spine. Does everybody see that? Now, here's an interesting little question for you. Are all the panels the same width? No, they're not. Are all the same panels the same height? Yes, they are. Okay? Now, take a look at your layout right now. Are all of your panels in InDesign the same height? Yes, they are. Are they all the same width?
No.
The one that you have in InDesign?
All.
Yes, they are. Now, here's the problem. What determines the width and height of our page size? When you create a new document in InDesign, how do we set that up? It's not a trick question. Like, really, how do you normally set the width and height of a page size? Yeah, you just type it in or you hit a preset, right? Which means when you do that, every single page in your layout takes on whatever size you typed in when you created a new file or when you clicked on that particular preset. Is everyone with me on this? Okay. But here we've got a layout that's a 5-panel layout, and not every single panel is the same width. So here's the issue. If I go into my document setup, and let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say this flap is 4 inches wide. It's not, but let's just say it's 4 inches wide. Okay? That means this panel and this panel needs to be 4 inches wide. If I go in my document setup and I say the document needs to be 4 inches wide, what's going to happen to all 5 panels? They're all going to be 4 inches wide. Well, that's not going to work because if this needs to be 4 inches and that needs to be 4 inches, do these 3 in the middle need to be 4 inches? No, they're going to be different. The front and the back cover are going to be bigger and the spine's going to be smaller. So we need to find a way of individually adjusting the size of each page or panel here. Enter a brand new tool that you probably have not used before in InDesign, and it's called, oddly enough, the Page tool. Let me show you how this works. First off, take a look at the toolbar on the left-hand side. You'll notice up at the top, we've got selection tool, direct selection tool, and then underneath it, it looks like we have a selection tool with a little icon of a page. So everybody see that one? That is your page tool. Click and select your page tool. Now, in your layout, notice one of my pages now have these little handles on them. And if I use the page tool, I can select any of the pages in my spread. So everybody see this? Now, here's the problem. The handles, you may immediately go, oh, that's great. If I could select a page and now I can transform the page, maybe I just grab one of those handles and just make it smaller. But if you do that, the page will suddenly pop back to its original size. The handles seem like they don't do anything. What these handles are really there for, yes, you can adjust them, but again, InDesign's managing the page size for us, and we haven't turned that feature off. And to be honest with you, manually kind of adjusting the size of a page using the mouse or the trackpad on your laptop, not the best idea. Because remember, in layout, we need to be precise. So, I'm not going to show you how to turn off the auto feature in InDesign. In fact, I'm going to show you a different way of setting your page size, which is precise. And that's simply this. once you have the page or panel selected that you want to resize, let's say we want to do the flaps. So let's make a quick assumption. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one of those is represented by the flaps based on this layout?
1 and 5.
Do we agree? 1 and 5 are the flaps. So let's say we want 1 and 5 to be 4 inches wide. Okay? So to do that, use the page tool, select the first panel. Panel 1, which is over here. Now go to your properties panel. Notice in properties now, I can adjust the width of that particular page. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and change it to 4 inches. And now I get a 4-inch wide page. Did it work? All right, now since that worked, let's do the same thing for the 5th panel. So I'm going to grab my page tool, select the 5th panel, and select 4 inches in the properties. I now have a properly sized panel for my flaps. So again, if we assume the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which other panel do we need to resize?
Spine.
Do we agree the spine, but which one is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 3. Are we sure? Be confident. Yes, it is 3. You're all looking at me like, wait. Is this a trick question? No, just want to make sure everyone's paying attention. 3 is the spine, because it's the one in the middle. Okay? Let's assume that the spine for this book is 2 inches. It's a very thick book. So again, grab your page tool, select the panel that represents the spine, and we'll make this 2 inches. Just like that. Does that look like a proper dust jacket layout? It should. Now, without looking, because I'm not going to unfold this, again, panels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which panel is the front cover? 5?
4?
4? Do I hear 3?
Wait, it's 4.
It's 4? Are we sure? Why is it 4?
Because that's the one that folds against.
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of people will make when they're making covers is they will assume panel 2 is the front cover. But check this out. Because of the way that this folds around the book, panel 2 is actually the back cover. Panel 4 is the front cover. Okay, which means panel 5 is what we call the front flap. Panel 1 is actually the back flap. Everybody see this? Okay, questions about the layout? Questions about the page tool? All right, so a couple of things about doing this, a couple of rules. When you create a multi-panel horizontal layout, every single panel needs to be set to the same height. But not every panel needs to be the same width. Okay? Every panel needs to be the same height. Not every panel needs to be the same width. Any questions about that rule? Additionally, in order to allow InDesign, or in order for you to change InDesign to allow you to actually do this sort of layout, you have to remove the option from each page in your layout that InDesign uses that's called Allow Document Spreads to Shuffle. Once you remove that feature, you're able to create a horizontal layout with multiple panels. Questions? Alright, so there is a reason why I'm showing you this today. And that is, we'll go and jump into Canvas. I may have to re-log in. Nope, I don't. go ahead and log into Canvas, go to Modules, and you should see Project 1, Dust Jacket Design. Now, as I've mentioned, every semester in this class, I choose a different book for the layout project. We're not quite there yet, but in preparation for this, one of the other aspects of this class is that you will be required to design a dust jacket for this fictional novel. The fictional novel that I have chosen for this semester is Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. Has anybody read this book or know what it's about? No one. That's great. Okay, so I have included the text of Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days in that module. So you can go ahead and check that out on your own. If you search for this online, please note there have been movies made about this. This is not one of Verne's more popular novels, but it has been, in years past, it was popular enough to actually spawn several different movie adaptations, one of which starring Jackie Chan. Do not, under any circumstance, research any of the movies. They are not like the book. Some of them got the similar premise, but the names and characters and places have been changed to protect the innocent, so to speak. I think Wikipedia has a pretty good write-up of the actual novel if you want to take a look at it. And yes, I did recommend Wikipedia. I'm not against it. And remember, one of the first strategies in layout is understanding what it is you're asked to lay out. So what we're going to do is, in preparation for the overall layout of the novel, each and every one of you will design a dust jacket for this book. The dust jacket itself has very specific sizes. We'll go over those in just a minute. But we're going to do this in a couple different steps. This first step will be due at the end of next week. So you have 2 weeks to work on this. This will be the initial pre-production design phase of your dust jacket, where you formulate an idea as far as what you want your dust jacket to look like, what sort of information you're going to place on it. To this end, I require each and every one of you to do a little research. Not just understanding what the book is about, because that should go without saying based on previous lectures. You should understand exactly what it is that you're laying out. What I want you to do is I want you to take some time, and if you finish early today, you can certainly do it today. Go to the library or a bookstore, still find one, and look at other dust jackets on hardcover books, especially fictional novels, to get some ideas as far as what it is that you want to lay out and how you want to design your dust jacket. Now, there are a couple of things we need to talk about when it comes to design. Number one, do not, under any circumstance, rip off somebody else's design. That includes things like movie posters. I've done books in the past like The Wizard of Oz, where people took, basically their entire concept off of the original movie poster for The Wizard of Oz. Don't do that. Had to have them change that. So like I said, even though there have been movies made for this, I want you to look at books that are not Around the World in 80 Days. Sound good? In order to ensure that you are doing a good job with your research, I have added a small little requirement to this first step in our project. And that is, you will be required to keep a bibliography of the books you look at. Does everybody remember bibliographies from English class? Specifically, we're going to use the MLA style, and I've given you an example of how to actually write up a book that you are currently researching for this project. So, keep a list of all the books. In years past, I've had people look at 3 or 4 books. I've had students look up literally dozens of books. So I've had one student turn in a bibliography that was 2 pages long. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But I do want to know what it is that you're looking at as part of how you're calculating your overall design strategy. For this design, you will be submitting an original work. So whatever you come up with as far as a sketch in this first step of the process, I will be expecting you to reproduce that digitally. So if you could sketch really, really well, but your Photoshop or Illustrator skills stink, you may want to think long and hard about how you want to design this. However, I will tell you this. I've had students in the past ask me, I have really good, skills with like charcoal or with paints. Could I actually do a physical design, like a painting, take a picture of that and use that for my dust jacket cover? I said, absolutely. Now, I'm not expecting you to paint the title and the author's name, but if you want to create artwork, okay, in whatever medium that you choose that you feel comfortable doing, whether that's Illustrator, Photoshop, photography, or painting, oil, whatever. 3D, you want to make a 3D object of some kind and take a photo of that, that's fine. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, I'm okay with. But you will be asked to reproduce it. So if your sketch is showing, or maybe you're just putting together some various ideas in your sketch and you're pitching it to me, and you're saying, hey, this is kind of the direction I want to go, which, by the way, I'll be asking each and every one of you to come up on Tuesday of next week to at least give me the initial idea. If you're pitching something to me and then you come back and the second step, I'm asking you to actually create that, and you have no idea how to do that and you don't have the skills to be able to do that, rethink what it is that your design is. Dust jackets do not have to be overly complex. In fact, a lot of the better dust jackets are rather simplistic in their overall design. There are some fantastic dust jackets that you may find that were books that were published between the 50s, 60s, and 70s that just use geometric shapes to get the point across. Okay, they don't have to be like full-blown portraits or make it look like an oil painting from the 1800s. They can just be very simplified shapes. A couple of good areas to kind of look at. If you're ever in the lab over here in 1106, Ashley has some amazing designs in her office in the back wall, if you've ever seen them. They're like travel posters to like different planets. But there is a huge selection of different design ideas that those actually illustrate. You can get some ideas off of things like that. The library has massive posters all over one of the walls in the main reading area. You can go in and take a look at that. And of course, all of those books in the library that have dust jackets, take a look at those designs. My point is, you're going to be creating an original design for this particular book. Now, to help you get started with that, like I said, do research. I want you to not only keep an outline, a bibliography of the books that you're using for that research, but I also want you to create just a simple bullet pointed list of observations you're making. So for instance, as you're looking at different dust jackets, think about, okay, well, what elements are similar across these dust jackets, right? Like for instance, on the front cover, are there certain things that every dust jacket has? Like, do the front covers all have the author's name? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Do they all have a title? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. How is the spine laid out in design? What information goes on these spines, right? Where's the barcode found on these dust jackets? Are they found on a flap? Are they found on the back cover? Are they found on the front cover? Where's a barcode? What sort of barcode do they actually use? Are they all the same or are they different? Okay. What sort of information usually goes on a spine or every it's fine, the flaps, the inside and the back flaps, right? Keep a little outline, a little bulleted list as you're going through of observations. So that when you put together your final sketch for me to turn in next Thursday, your sketch should be representative, at least as a plan of how you want to lay this out. Now, when we get to that part of production where you're actually doing the layout for this, when you turn that final file into me, I will get them printed on our large format printer in the lab. I'm not expecting you to pay for printing on this. We will print them out. You will then trim them, and the last step in this will be mounting it on presentation board. And then we'll put them out in the hallway, and then we'll have a class where we go in and we'll critique them and talk about them, and we'll do all of that. But that's still several weeks away. Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, so this is project number 1. In addition to your sketch, your outline of observations, and your bibliography, I also need you to create an InDesign document using the technique we just talked about. You're going to create a 5-panel horizontal layout based on the measurements that I have here in the project sheet. So assuming that the trim size of the book, as given here, is 6 inches by 9 inches, you're going to lay out a 5-panel design based on the bullet points that I've given you here. Now here's what I mean by this. If you take a look at this book, the trim of the pages, is it bigger, smaller, or the same size as the cover? Yeah. So what this means is that the cover itself and the dust jacket needs to be designed to be slightly bigger than the trim size of the actual book. So, I have given you a trim size of 6 inches by 9 inches. And down here, I've told you, make sure your dust jacket, based on that trim size, follows these particular measurements. So there are going to be certain things, certain panels that have to be certain widths. The overall height is going to have to be bigger because, again, trim size is smaller than the cover. So just make sure you follow that. So when you turn in your file to me, or your project to me on Thursday, I expect in a folder to have an InDesign file with a 5-panel layout based on these setup, a bibliography, an outline, okay? And you can either turn in your sketches as a digital scan with your folder, or if you want to just hand me physical pages, that's fine too. So I'll leave it up to you. Some people don't like to turn in, and by the way, if you don't want to rip pages out of like a sketchbook, if you got a nice sketchbook, and you don't mind me holding on to a sketchbook for a week, that's fine, but I highly recommend scanning it. We have scanners at every single desk. If you need help using it, I'd be more than happy to show you how. You could also, if you need to, in a pinch, you can take a picture of your, everyone's got a high enough camera, high enough quality camera on their phone. You can take a picture of it with your phone and submit it that way digitally with your folder. Okay? Questions? No questions. Yes?
So I could draw everything on my iPad, like if I use that for drawing, is that fine?
Yes?
Okay.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, what's that drawing tool that most people are using nowadays?
Procreate.
Procreate, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to draw in Procreate, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Just keep in mind, though, I'm going to be holding your feet to the fire that you can produce what you say you can do in your sketch. Yeah. Which program? That's fine. As long as you can export that file and it can be used in InDesign as a layout, you're okay. Yeah.
It would have to be JPEG.
As long as it's a press quality JPEG, but it has to be press quality because when I go to print it on that large format printer, if it's not press quality, it's going to be really bad. All good questions. Anything else?
So if like I design it on Photoshop and I use like say for instance stock images, if it produces what I create on the sketch, am I allowed to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, you could totally do retouching work using stock photographs as a base. I don't want you to just find a stock photograph and then just place it on your cover and go, ta-da, it's done. Like, no. If you want to edit, airbrush, do whatever you need to that you've learned in digital imaging, be my guest. Again, use the tools that you're most comfortable with. Because again, I realize not everybody in here wants to be a layout artist. Many of you want to be illustrators, some of you want to be photo retouchers, others want to be photographers or animators or any number of things within this industry, or even just fine artists. That's fine. Ashley did a really, just bragging on Ashley, when she was one of my students, she actually did an oil painting for War of the Worlds. That was the book we did during her semester. And she did this big oil painting for her dust jacket cover, and then took a high-res photo of it, edited it a little bit and cleaned it up a little bit in Photoshop, and used that as the actual dust jacket cover. And then laid out the text on top of it using Illustrator, and then eventually everything got placed into InDesign. So that's a route you can go. I'm okay with that. But here's what I need you guys to do. This week, take time to do research on this. Okay, you're going to be working on this for the next 2 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean Thursday is an open lab. Okay, we got to jump back into typesetting and styles, and we got to talk a little bit more about utilizing styles, especially when we're going to start kind of hooking styles into other aspects of our layout. So we'll talk about that on Thursday and have another assignment based on that on Thursday. But by Tuesday of next week, I want you to at least have finished your research part of this. So you have your observation outline and your bibliography done, and you've at least come some way with a sketch. You've got at least a decent idea as far as what you want your overall design to include. Even if that's just some basic ideas, some concepts. It doesn't actually have to be visualized at that point. If you can just kind of give me an idea as far as like, this is the direction I want to go, that's what I want to hear on Tuesday, at the bare minimum. On Tuesday, there will not be any skipping. So unlike the poster project that you guys had, this project will not be something that you can skip. And I think I mislabeled this as Project 1, this is Project 2. Any questions about this? Okay, are we sure? I'm sure there'll be questions when you get into it. All right. So, first off, for research, does everybody know we have a library on campus? Okay, all right. If you don't know where the library is, let me know and I can point you to it. But I've always assumed that people knew that, but I've had a couple semesters where people are like, where's the library? I'd be happy to show you. It's actually a really good library. All right. Oh, with that being said, the other thing that we've got to do today, and I will change that project number real quick. Go ahead and go back to the modules. There is a new hot job number 2. Remember these? Did the menu that first time out. New hot job. This is due before you leave today by 3. Here's the deal. You have a client. That client, if you can't get on it, I can get you the files at some point. Are you in Safari or Chrome?
Chrome.
Try Safari. Should be in the bottom left corner of the dock. Yes.
My mouse doesn't work.
I will get you another mouse. Everything is falling apart. All right, hot job number 2. Of course, if you're not here, you're not doing the hot job, so we're going to turn this off. All right.